2. All right, hey guys, Kid here of Burn One Shadowverse Evolve channel, joined with Dean once again on
Hello. You don't
again,
even know.
yeah, episode 7 of the On Evolve podcast. Unfortunately, we started the recording earlier, and I'm really dumb and forgot to make sure that Dean was not muted on the recording software. He was recorded. He was muted. Luckily, I stopped before we got too deep into it. I think we're like 10, 15 minutes in. So we're just going to recap everything up to that point, essentially. So,
Gonna be
Dean,
part of the book. Okay, so as you guys know
I'm
through the
sorry.
post, we both went and managed to win a shop qualifier. I went down to a shop called Rivals Gaming. It's near South Bend. They hosted their tournament as best 2 out of 3, no cut to top 8. There were 12 players. And my personal score ended up being 8-0 across 4 rounds. So the best 2 out of 3 didn't really matter. I was on Rune. I'm not going to share the list because Chicago is coming up in 2 to 3 weeks. I think we previously mentioned it was the 17th.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like 2.5 weeks. I would like to just... I'm not sure if I'm playing the list because every time I fight Dragon, I feel like it's unstoppable. But thankfully, this locals that we went to, they had 5 to 6 Vanguard players that play Shadowverse on the side. So that was kind of, I don't know how to say this without being mean, but, we've been playing a little bit more competitively. Like, we've been playing, like, real decks the entire time, and everyone's been playing with completed decks at the shop. So when we all came up with, like, the same list, it was a little bully, but...
Yeah,
it is what it be.
You said you convinced everyone in your car to play the exact same list as you, or?
Yeah, it was like pretty close. It was like 3 people with like a 1 card difference. So yeah, and we got like first, second, third. So it was pretty funny.
Understandable.
Yeah. So the list is pretty good, but it does have problems against dragons. So we'll see.
All right. Yeah.
And then after that, I guess we did also have the what was it called? The thing where you get Path to Purgatory. That was
The
the other locals I went
championships.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah, the championship.
Championships.
2-1 because it was only 7 of us, but 2-1 is actually 4th place, so pretty rough. Did not win a Path to Purgatory, but I got my shapeshifting mage. Not really anything too exciting there.
Yeah, you got your quick blader too, right?
I got my quick blader. I mean, everyone gets the quick blader. Not everybody.
Well, I mean, if you had a 7-man championship, doesn't everyone get the shapeshifter mage? Because isn't it top 8?
Yeah. But what if we had 9? What if we had 9 and I went 0-3?
True.
Just imagine.
Team going 0-3? No way.
Me? Wait till I start sleeving Roost. But until then, thankfully I haven't really had time to sleeve the memes yet. And now because of Chicago, maybe after Chicago, I'll be sleeving something like Roost.
You're not going to play Roost in Chicago, man?
I don't know. We got to keep the list secret. It might. But yeah, so I know that you went to a couple qualifiers and tell us about that, kid.
All right. Once again, I went to 2 qualifiers. The first one was this past Tuesday. That one I ate garbage at completely. I think I ended like 2-3 or whatever after Swiss. Of the 3 losses I had, 2 of them were 100% my fault. 2 of them I had the game in the bag, and me being me, I was like, how could I possibly fumble this game? I figured out a way and did it. It was pretty bad. Actually, I didn't say this earlier on the other when we first did the recording, but one of the ways I fumbled was I forgot we were in turns I was playing Haven, and I had in my hand a way to win the game because I was on the last turn to lower his life lower than mine by like 1 or 2 points. But my brain was thinking about winning more than like how do I like cheese out a win during turns, and because I'm an idiot, and so I set up lethal next turn where there was no way he could beat this lethal next turn. But there was no next turn, so I lost that round, and I was like, dang. So moving forward, I've learned from that mistake. I'm gonna start having a separate die out as soon as turns get called. I'm gonna start counting the turns with a die and put it like on top of my deck, so I know where we're at on turns, so I won't make that same mistake again. And the other one was like a really dumb mistake that like anyone who plays into like a D shift matchup should know. But I was stupid and thought I got really greedy one turn, and that one turn was enough for my opponent to kill me the next turn. But besides that, oh wait, and then there was the one loss I had. One other loss I had was really ridiculous because um, I did all the calculations in my head, and there was only an exact 5 card hand my opponent could have to beat me round 2. It was against another D shift player, and that exact hand was 3 flame destroyers and 2 D shifts, and my opponent had it. I was like, oh, very well. I guess holding open 1 execution is not enough in this matchup. You always need to pass with 8 play points floating. Uh, but yeah, unfortunately, my opponent had it. I think I talked to him later at the next shop qualifier, and I think he said when he casted D shift in his next turn, when he drew off of the D shift turn, he drew the second D shift then. And I was like, dang, sometimes you're just born a god. Other times you just open garbage. But yeah, I learned a lot from those game losses and stuff, especially the turns one. That was really dumb when I literally had the win in my hand. But at the unrated event, some crazy stuff did happen. I think this was during round 2. Almost all the games were done. There was probably like 2 games left still going, and they called time, and everyone was in turns that was still playing. But this person behind me just starts screaming super loud about his opponent taking forever, and then he's calling judge over for slow play. I guess because his opponent only had a 1 card hand and was taking a long time to make his decision. But it was like, I think most of the time, like, calling a judge over for slow play is fine and being like, hey, my opponent's taking long. Can we make sure this is going at a reasonable pace? But the way my opponent did it was so egregiously so egregious like so egregiously like messed up, because he raised his voice really loud and was like basically screaming in the store, which really, like, when that happened, literally everyone stopped doing everything and turned to that table to be like, what the hell is going on over there? And so uh they started screaming. They both actually started kind of screaming at each other, essentially. Like, the guy that was like quote unquote slow playing, at least I don't think he was like screaming as loud. He was just kind of raising his voice because his opponent was like literally screaming. And the judge had to come over and be like, hey, you can't do this or whatever. You need to like calm down, and like, you can't scream and like make people uncomfortable like this. So that opponent got a warning, and like if it happens again and you make other people uncomfortable, he's gonna get kicked out of the store, right? At the shop qualifier. And like, that was, I've never been to a locals where something as insane like that has happened before. So it was a very interesting thing to see for the first time ever. That guy was like super apologetic afterwards, and I think he kind of learned his lesson. Um, so yeah, but I mean, if you guys know who this is, don't bully him over it or something like that. I think sometimes some people get really emotional and bought into their game, and it comes out sometimes not in the most favorable light in people. But I'm sure the person that did all the yelling, is learned from their mistake, and they won't do anything crazy again like that at a local, because otherwise they'll probably get blacklisted from other shops or something. But besides that, I went to a second qualifier, which was Hobby Shop Ichiban, which I believe is in Hacienda Heights. There was a 26-person qualifier there, and I was able to take home my invite playing Dragon. It was 5 rounds into top 8 cut. I only dropped 1 game the entire night, which was my round 3 opponent. They played Dirt Rune, and this was one of the 2 games I saw where I made a obvious mistake. This one was I didn't mulligan properly. I think when I started the game I thought I mulliganed, but apparently my opponent afterwards said I didn't mulligan. I kept my hand, so that was on me. But I was looking for essentially Wraith, the 3-drop burn 5 spell, or at least a copy of Shapeshifting Mage, just to avoid the scenario of my opponent turn 3. What's the card called? The Alchemist Golem.
The Ancient Alchemist.
Yeah, Ancient Alchemist. Just to avoid like my opponent trying to high roll with like Ancient Alchemist turn 3 into turn 4 Evo and then start summoning golems immediately. Unfortunately, I didn't have an answer, and my opponent did do it. He told me afterwards too. Now that we're talking about this again, is that his opening hand was 2 Ancient Alchemists plus some other stuff, and he wanted to mulligan, but he said he couldn't because he knew if he mulliganed, he'd never see those ancient alchemists again. And I was like, fair enough. And so I kind of got he got that online on turn 4, and he got to use it for about 2 turns. Like I finally was able to remove it, but then he had to follow up ancient alchemist, like he said, and he was able to get lethal through my ward by burning my face twice, using the new ancient alchemist Evo to crash into my ward to remove it, and then he had one of the rush golems out from the turn prior still to able to hit me with 3 when I was at 3 after the 2 burns, and got game like that. I think I died like on turn 6 or something like that. It was not a fun game for me. Learned from that mistake basically, and the only other mistake I made was in top 8. Um, so it was in my top 4 match. So top 8 I played against Haven, won that match, and then my top 4 match was against D Shift, and I had an opportunity because I ramped early to be able to play a forte and defend it with a ancient or not ancient a Bellringer Angel that I already had on board. So on turn 5 I could have forte Evo face, and then the Bellringer I could have warded it to protect it. But for some reason, my opponent had a Sammy on the board, the card that lets both players draw if he Evos it. Uh, and because of that, for some reason, my brain was like, my life total matters in this matchup. I should just ward now. And so I warded the Bellringer Angel when I shouldn't have. And he removed the Bellring Angel with the Sammy. And I was like, dang, that is unfortunate for me. I probably should have not wasted that ward and used it to protect my Forte, because then I could start chipping him away enough to get him down to another Forte or Genesis Dragon range. Luckily, though, I was able to get him to 10 life at one point, and on his turn 7, he basically set up that if I pass turn next turn, he has D shift and is ready to go off. Luckily, I had an Ayala out, and I went into 9 play points, and I had Genesis Dragon and Forte in my hand. He only floated 4 play points, so all that really says is that he has either an Execution or what's that other one that deals 3 damage to me?
Fiery Embrace.
Yeah, Fiery Embrace in hand, and possibly like maybe Angelic Sniper, something like that. So I swung in immediately with Ayala to see what he was going to do. If he takes the 3 from Ayala, I just Forte Evo face, since he can't interact with that. If
He can.
Well, oh yeah, triple barrage, sure. But I was praying he didn't have that. I'm pretty sure, because I think he already had like 1 or 2 in his cemetery. But he took a very long time, and he knew exactly that he had to play around either Forte or Genesis Dragon. He decided to play around the Forte after taking a lot of time to think about it, hoping that I didn't have Genesis in hand. Unfortunately for him, I had both in hand, and he didn't leave 5 play points open to be able to play around both. If he was able to leave open 5 play points, then he could play around both, and then that's kind of rough for me, and I lose from there. Luckily, he didn't, and I was able to secure the win with Genesis Dragon. And then the final match was a Dragon Mirror. It was already like 11:30 p.m. Both of us didn't want to play. We both got our invite. We were there for our invite, so we just decided to split prizing between us and call it quits there. So my final record was 6-1-1, and the last one being a draw game for the finals, because we just both got our invites. And it was really great. I was really happy with my results. I felt like I played out of my mind every game. Uh, Made the least mistakes I've made in a while playing in events, and it was a lot of fun. So I'm very happy I don't have to worry about my regional qualification anymore. And it made it so I was able to like skip some events this weekend and just actually not go out this weekend and play card games. So, but yeah,
Getting those invites is very stressful. Hopefully, like we mentioned before, hopefully they open up this actual tournament circuit going forward after this, one time of making us deal with this.
yeah, I'm really hoping that next season, before singles, that they kind of follow along like every other Bushiroad card game, where they have teams for the first half of the year. If there's teams in Shadowverse, I think it's going to be like
Teams
probably.
invite only.
Oh God, no. But if there's teams for and their open events and their team events, I'm gonna probably have such a fun time traveling out with Dean and whoever our third is gonna be, jumping around to different regionals and just like either eating garbage or like winning it all. I feel like at this point.
I may be the biggest liability on your team.
Don't worry.
Especially since the anime sets will be out by then. Yeah, I'll be a liability.
Don't worry. Well, I'll carry you, and whoever a third is, well, we gotta make sure they can carry you as well. But it's fine. I mean, if you do halfway as decent as you do in all our team events for Weiss, you're gonna be completely fine. But yeah, I'm really hopeful for that, and I really hope they move to an open circuit instead of this closed circuit, where you have to get an invite. It's kind of rough, and like I said, like it puts so much pressure on some people. They crack at locals and start screaming or something. But
It's
yeah,
rough. It's rough out there.
it is. Oh man, all right. Was there anything else we were gonna say about our locals?
Not really. I think all around we've been doing the best we can, and now the only thing next is for us is regionals and testing, and I I know that I personally don't want to share what I'm testing, so
Oh yeah, for sure. There there is I mean, I don't know, people aren't gonna understand this. Wait, have you seen Ryan's Abyss list, right?
yeah. I actually was needing to test that this week.
Yeah, I want to test it a lot too. Like I want to test it to the point that
You
like
think
if
it's
it
real?
I think it's really real. I think it does have some bad matchups, but I think at a regional you avoid all those bad matchups because no one will be on those other decks.
That is a thing I was thinking about because I know was it this podcast or was it the previous one that we deleted? Uh,
I don't know.
uh, but I think I mentioned that I don't like Dragon because Dragon. I feel like I'm not in control. I don't feel like I'm not in the driver's seat with Dragon. I feel like if I open the Oracle, I win. If I open the Oracle and then also have a semi decent hand, I win. If I don't, then like there's like a lot of hands and there's not a lot you can do. And you have like three cards. There's like two individual cards that you need to see to start playing the game. And if you don't see them, namely Shenlong and Forte, it feels like I don't have a deck. I don't know if that's the right way to explain it, but that's kind of how I felt.
Oh yeah. This was from the this was from the one we deleted. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We talked about this. And then I think this is a really big reason a lot of people ended up jumping on like multiple copies of Path to Purgatory and Dragon, because just they need the draw. There's no search. There's nothing like that. You can't be like Sword and have multiple searches. You can't be what other classes have search? I don't even remember. Oh, Haven.
Haven, Rune.
Yeah, Rune.
Well, Rune
Yeah,
has Rune draw, yeah.
yeah. So those classes let you kind of in a way outskill your opponent in a different type of way because you get a toolbox for either like silver bullets or the exact thing you need next turn. Whereas Dragon, I think the skill in Dragon comes from being able to use your limited resources in a way that maximizes your chances to like survive and win the game, because you need to make sure you get maximum value, because you can't make any searches, so you can't find things. You gotta kind of hope that you draw into things that get you gas, like you said, like Shenlong or Path to Purgatory, or I guess Wavering Cavalier even, things that can get you there. And then you gotta hope that your big bodies are put enough pressure on the board that your opponent can't just clear them every turn. And then that's usually how you kind of get there and get them in range of Forte or Genesis, right?
Right.
But yeah, it's definitely a different skill set, for sure, I think.
I feel like I just have less control. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like the decks that do good against Dragon are decks like Forest, where like nobody can play them correctly. Like they're the ones that right, they're just like too difficult to bring to a tournament. And I think the bad hands are like too bad. Like I know you were complaining about Haven. Where you're like Haven's the best deck if I have a good hand, but sometimes you just have like the unplayable hand, right?
Yeah, or like you have like a lot of good things, but none of it's like interacting with your opponent. So you let your opponent do things for free for multiple turns, and you're just like, great. Like my opponent ran away with this game because I didn't draw any removal, and that's that. You know.
Yeah, and I think it's the same problem I have with Force. I think Force is good into like I have my reasons. I've done some testing, but like I feel like Force is pretty decent into Dragon. But it's the same problem, right? It's a deck that has like the most unbelievably bad hands mixed with the the most amount of like thought process throughout the entire tournament. And randomly like bad matchups, right? Like you play Force into I think a deck like Rune, which is like is Rune like a real deck? I don't know. And suddenly the game is rougher, so
Yeah.
it's a lot to think about with the meta, especially with the regional coming up.
Yeah, especially if you're going on the set one meta for your regional.
And I don't know actually what a having a 30-man regional. I don't know what that actually does to how competitive the regional is.
I mean, I
What do you
assume
think?
the regional will be almost like a bigger local again, but like I guess it's technically the better players from around. So I assume it's going to be like a 5 round tournament into top 8 cut, right? So I think as long as you go X2 decently late into the bracket, you probably have a really good chance of making it. So you only really have to win 3 out of 2 rounds of top 8, and then yeah, make sure you don't just drop the first 3 games essentially. And then at that point, that's like when the real competition kind of happens, because regionals are still best of one, right, for top 8.
Are they?
I have no idea. I mean, I can kind of look
Nor
this up
do I.
now. Shadowverse Evolve. But I
We're all
mean,
learning together.
yeah. I mean, either way, it just the feel of like these smaller regionals for sure. It's not going to be like how we feel in like going to Weiss, well, Weiss regionals or like anyone who plays Vanguard. Right, you're there for like 7 rounds most likely into a top 8, and those regionals like you can only drop literally like 1 game to guarantee top 8, and then X2s at that point are like you gotta be super lucky or literally lose to 2 other people in top 8 to be able to make it, because a lot of times top top 8 cut sometimes even cuts people with X1, when we played Weiss, which was really cringe also.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, I definitely think though the regionals are going to be competitive, the stress of going like X1 isn't going to be
I
as
I guess
felt, I
my
guess.
question is, do you think the format is going to allow very inconsistent decks that otherwise you wouldn't have seen get through the bracket?
Possibly, just because like I said, if you can like pop off the first 3 games and then like you lose the last 2, I think you have a really good chance of top 8ing with X2, depending on who your 2 losses are. And hopefully, yeah, so like you can high roll like your first 3 games, lose the next 2, and then high roll your way through top 8, like if you play something like really crazy like Roost Dragon or something. But
Roost Dragon? Wow, who would do that?
organization rules and regulations, here it is. Best of 1 Swiss round, single elimination for top 8. All right, yeah, so it's a best of 1 top 8 still, unfortunately.
Oh no, that's a little rough.
Yeah,
I was
it
kind of
is.
hoping we wouldn't have that, but
Yeah. Well, hopefully next season, all that changes. That's what I'm really looking forward to, especially the early next year. Where I'm gonna wonder what the competitive scene's gonna be like. Wait, did we talk about teams on this already? I am
yeah, I think
mixing.
we did.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So I hope there's teams, because that'll be a lot of fun, I think, and will really hype up the community, and like friend groups going around and flying to different places to play, and hopefully things become open regionals instead of these invite only regionals again. But yeah, anything else to talk about for the tournament circuit? I guess nothing, right?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, Dean, it's everyone's favorite segment time.
It's everyone's favorite segment. Do you want to give them the rundown today, Kit?
All right. So this is guess that flavor text. Clearly, we were the first persons ever to invent this, not that other Pokemon person that you got this from, Dean.
Yeah, no, definitely our idea.
Yeah, 100% original character. Do not steal. Uh, so, in this case, I will be reading. I'm reading to you this week, right?
Yes,
Okay, yeah. I will be reading flavor text off of a card that exists in the physical game of Shadowverse Evolve. Unfortunately, for some reason, when they brought the cards over in English, they deleted all the flavor text on the cards, so we can't use any flavor text from the real one, the physical cards. So we'll be using card version, and I will be reading the flavor text. We are competing to see who gets the most points in the long run. You start off with 4 points, and you have 3 lifelines to use. Every time you use a lifeline, you lose 1 point to your score total, and you hopefully get all 4 points, or you just dwindle down to 1 or get 0 because you are just bad at knowing flavor text. The 3 lifelines are, I believe, the first one is you get to know what craft it's from, right?
correct.
Then the next one is what card type it is.
Yes.
And then the last one is what I guess what do you say expansion in the digital is? That's what we
Yeah.
chose.
What set it came
Oh yeah,
out
what
and
set came in? Yeah,
maybe we might need to fix that one eventually. That
yeah,
one feels like really hard.
yeah. That one feels like yeah, it's for the base set. Dean, don't worry. Great, that really narrows it down, I guess. But yeah. So I guess are you ready, Dean?
I am ready. Hopefully we can pull ahead.
Yeah, I think like the last few weeks, no one's got anything. Even our guest
We
Shinto.
only got one on the first week. I don't even know how we got the first ones at this point.
Yeah, me either. All right, so here is the flavor text. Though the wizard himself might die, his knowledge is passed on to the next generation.
Oh no.
Dude, you can't just be already like no already.
What type of card is it's got to be a runecraft card.
Do you want to? Are you asking what the?
I'm asking what type. Is it
Okay,
spell?
okay. It is a follower.
Oh no. Though the wizard will die? Is that what you said?
Though the wizard himself might die, his knowledge is passed on to the next generation.
What if it's not a runecraft card? That would be insane. That would be
That
actually
actually
insane.
would be insane, wouldn't it?
Dude, this is gonna be like my boy Erasmus, but no, I feel like I read I read Erasmus once. So I actually know Erasmus's flavor text, by the way. So yeah, good luck with that one. So I know it's not him. What set did it come out in? I actually can use this one.
Okay, in digital, right?
Yeah,
It's from the classic set.
from the classic. So that means it was a booster. It's not like a story mode card. So it can't be Demon Flame Mage. Dude, there's that one guy that like it's that booty cheeks like rune card, like Spectral Wizard is the what if it's not a rune card? There's no way it's not a rune card. There's no wizards in any other class, right?
Maybe, I don't know.
Shapeshifting mage. like this is rough. I am gonna go. I'm gonna go with that was it Spectral Wizard guy? He's like the silver that's unplayable.
Spectral Wizard, is that your final answer?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Dean. You don't win
What?
$1
This is
million.
impossible. Who is this?
Crafty Warlock. The guy who gets a sediment when he dies.
That does make sense. That does
I
it?
thought
I guess.
I thought you would get it because you play some rune or some dirt. So
I do like me some dirt. However, bro, that guy, I wouldn't think that guy was like a wizard. He's a warlock. They're different.
Well, apparently to his flavor text, it's a wizard, even though he has the warlock title.
Okay, well, maybe next week somebody will get one right.
I think we're still tied 3-3, right?
Yeah, with an entire one correct answer so far on each of us. But, you know, maybe we'll just start reading the goblin flavor text every week until somebody gets it.
We'll just read the same flavor text over and over again. We just keep getting it wrong, both of us. Oh my god. I was like, did you ask this last week? Oh man. All right. With that out of the way, we have one final section here that sparks some discussion and stuff since we're coming towards the end of the invite season, I guess. But before that, if you made this far, what the hell are you doing if you're not subscribed? We do this podcast essentially every week at this point. It's a lot of fun. And for those that actually like come up to us and they're like, all like, I watch your stuff, you know, literally thank you for like watching this. Cause honestly, Dean and I love making garbage content and here we are. We're just consistent. That's the big thing with our garbage content at times. So we're really, really thankful for anyone who subscribes, follows, leaves a comment, all of that fun stuff, because it does motivate us a lot to keep doing this and get out of bed every Sunday or Monday whenever we do this recording to put it out. With that being said, the next section we're going to talk about, this will probably be the last thing we talk about, is we are going to talk about the whole Bushi Navi system and the invitational stuff going on. Like, what are the good things and the bad things we can take away from this system, and like maybe like what are things we can do to improve it and stuff like that. So should we start with the good first or the bad? Dean, what do you want to go with?
Oh, is there? How many good things are there about this system?
I feel like there was a lot of potential, and there's some good things I think, but I think the execution is what killed like a lot of it for a lot of people.
Well, I guess. Hmm. I guess it's not truly bad. Is it actually that bad? I guess
Uh,
that's the question.
so okay, so this is my current review of it, I guess. So I guess let's just both talk about like how we feel about the system, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
I think in theory the system is really good. I think I like having like a more competitive local to like compete in. I like that regionals are going to have like high quality players all around essentially, because you at least have to be like essentially the undefeated at your local if it's a small local, or you have to be like good enough to top 3 at a really huge local, right?
You're
Just
on
trying to
two
stop.
separate. You're on a separate path now. You are on the path of the invite system, not the Bushi Navi.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, okay. So as far as the app goes, um
Oh,
the I like being able to sign up for events and find stores through the app itself, because it let me actually go to a lot of other stores I probably would have never visited ever, if or even know they existed, if it wasn't because of the Bushi Navi system. Um, and I like that a lot because, like, at least as far as Bushiroad goes, they do a lot of like shop championship things where you can show up to a store, compete. If you win first place, you get this. They don't do it in the Shadowverse, obviously, because there's no open right now. But in their other games, you can win a buy card, which means round one you get to skip round one, you get an automatic win, and you start the tournament with a win, and you can rest a little bit more in the morning and just like walk around, just drink your coffee or whatever you're gonna do before round two and get ready, or like even walk around the room and scout people out if you want to. Um, I think that like system is like really cool, and it's like having the app itself being able to find these stores, see exactly like, oh, the store will only accept like 16 players and you can sign up early and then guarantee your spot for those 16 players is really cool. I i personally like that, every time I show up to locals and win and do stuff, I unlock little badges for my stupid little name that I put in her. Like for a long time I had like Salty as my badge name on the Bushi Navi app, so when your name comes up on the screen, it just says you're salty. I think the newest one I unlocked was like please help me. So I have that up on there now too. I think like collecting those little things is like a little fun too on the
I
side.
didn't
If
even know about those.
Oh yeah, I didn't know until like when I was just going through the app. If you go like into their profile section, if you scroll all the way down, there's randomly a button that just says titles, and I clicked on it and I was like, oh, you can set titles separately for each game you play, and when you enter events at each shop, for the game you played, it unlocks more and more, I guess. And maybe I don't know how exactly it unlocks more. I don't know if it requires you to like top or something to unlock more. But I have like a whole list of them now for Shadowverse Evolve, which has been kind of cool. I think that's like pretty neat overall, because a lot of times people stores now have been using their system to post a picture of like, oh, here are the top players this week, and you have your name with your little title underneath that says you're salty or whatever. I think that's funny and kind of cute, and like gets you a little something extra, I guess, just for using the app. I think if the app itself was executed perfectly, I think this is a really good thing for stores overall. Like if the system was perfect, uh, I think stores would love this app a lot. So this is the part where like it gets kind of bad in a way, is that stores are required to like register a month in advance essentially for their next month's schedule, and they have no ability to change that on the fly or put a thing out that says in the app saying, hey, like an emergency happened, we had to cancel this event. Like for example, there is a store that closed down a month ago that it is still listed in the app to have regional invites and stuff like that for Shadowverse and Weiss and things like that, and it's still on there because before they closed down, they submitted the paperwork months in advance for like multiple months, I guess. And Bushiroad still has not removed that shop off of there, and I I don't know 100%, but I'm sure there's probably been a couple people who like showed up to this
Was
store that doesn't exist anymore. It,
I I think I saw a post about that.
no, this
Some
was a
guy
different
was
one.
some.
Yeah, this is a different one that
Oh,
happened to them in New York. They drove 5 hours to an
I
event that was supposed to be
saw that.
happening today. They got there, the store was closed, and no one was in the parking lot. They waited around for a while, and like they never opened the store or anything. So the guy kind of wasted his day. Like, I don't blame. Like, he didn't know about the event because like if you're going to drive that long, that far,
Please
people,
call.
you should call ahead to make sure everything's good. But the problem with this person is he explained how this happened was because he literally found out about the event the night before and they're already closed at night, obviously, right? So, and he has a 5 hour drive, so he's gonna wake up early in the morning, drive 5 hours to make it to the store, only to find out that he was like, screwed,
Okay.
which is
Okay.
unfortunate.
Mad props to being willing to like commit to a 5 hour drive the night before. That's pretty intense.
Yeah, that is actually insane. That
But
guy
also,
was on the grind for sure.
that's pretty rough.
Yeah. I don't know what the New York scene is like too, essentially, because maybe there's not as many regional spots, regional invites out there, since maybe stores didn't sign up as frequently as like Southern California stores did, or any other place. So that is really rough if that like was one of the few regional invite spots they could have had. Personally, if that guy's watching this, I would go and complain, send an email to Bushiroad and be like, "Hey, I drove 5 hours out for this, and the store wasn't open." And blah blah blah. See if you can get anything out of that, because that,
An invite.
yeah, because that's pretty insane. I mean, like if you're driving 5 hours to try to win an invite, you probably have like the passion in you and probably some amount of skill that you think you can get the invite, especially if you're driving 5 hours. Because I would, if I sucked at this game, unless I had friends to go with, because I think that guy went alone too. If I had friends to go with, sure, I'll go even if I suck, because it's just a fun day to hang out with friends. But if you're going alone for 5 hours, you must be very confident in your skill and your ability to outplay people in this game. But yeah, so that is really rough. I don't know why Bushiroad system is very rigid in that sense, where stores have no flexibility to like make announcements on the app or anything like that as far as their events go. Which I think is the worst thing about the app. Like once you do your event list a month in advance, you're locked in and nothing can be changed. That's another thing too, because there's another store over here that was signed up for regionals and or not regionals for invites and stuff like that. But for some reason in the app, the time they put for the start time was 6 a.m. But their start time is 2 for every other event. But for this one, it just says 6 a.m. for some reason. And which is very confusing for people and players. Um, you know, when they look at the app, they're like, what the heck, 6 a.m. start time? So they have to do their own research essentially, which is kind of defeats the purpose of this app in my opinion, because you're like I feel like the whole reason is like I can search within a 30-mile radius of me what stores play this game, when are their events, and what time do they start, and pre-register if you want to. I think that's the whole point, so people can find play groups they want to like play around with. You look like you had something to say, Dean.
Well, isn't the problem to do with like shops interfacing with the app at that point, kind of? Because like a
No.
lot of shops like have misreported their time or like right.
So yes and no. I think this wouldn't be as big of an issue if they had the ability to make changes after it's already been set. And I don't. I'm not 100% sure on how the stuff gets submitted to Bushiroad, but this is the feeling I have. I have the feeling that when they submit these things to Bushiroad, it might just be like through some kind of like automated email system, and someone else at Bushiroad puts it into the app itself. So I don't know if they're making a mistake or the shop owner is making a mistake, but either way, if it's one or the other, um, it's very unfortunate that stores are like immediately locked down and they cannot make changes. They try to like one of the stores I usually go to regularly, Unrated Gaming. Um, they submitted their stuff, but for some reason, this entire month they were locked out. They have technically on the app, they have no locals anymore. But they still have the shop qualifier, they still have the shop championship, but they have no weekly locals listed like all their other games. And this is only in Shadowverse for some reason. So that's really weird because if they catch that mistake they should be able to at least access it or like submit something to make a change. But for some reason, Bushiroad doesn't give the stores that ability. It seems like it's locked all behind some other system that maybe only Bushiroad themselves can really go in and make changes. And I think that's the really unfortunate part because like for example, here in Southern California, we had the hurricane that came by recently. A lot of stores on that Sunday, out of the safety for their players and everyone, they're like, "Yeah, we're closed this day. We were supposed to have an invite. We're going to reschedule it for some other time. We'll announce it later on Facebook. Just please follow our socials and stuff like that." They were like anyone who isn't like really familiar with those people or not those people, those stores, and like kind of what happened to this other guy, like they don't see that event till like the day before, and it maybe they call and their store is already closed, so they can't confirm certain things. um it becomes really really rough. I would like to see an update where stores have a little bit more I guess wiggle room or something, like for them to get in and make some minor changes, like maybe change the time or change the date or say this event was canceled, like so people don't just show up randomly if they're going to make a really long drive. Because unfortunately, these invitational like events, they do get people who are willing to drive multiple hours to different stores just to
Oh
try to
yeah.
qualify for sure. So I think that is an issue that I hopefully gets addressed in like later iterations of the app.
Well, I know there was a thing where people were claiming that stores were being signed up for like the qualifiers without even having a player base. Is that something you've seen?
So here I have no idea because over here, Busher games are insanely popular in Southern California. So I think every store that had a qualifying thing was like good to go essentially.
Okay.
It might have been just something too where like maybe a store just like check marked all the boxes saying yeah whatever we'll run whatever, and then submitted it only to find out later like oh we were supposed to hold this special event thing that's happening this month. That I mean that could have been the thing too. I'm not sure. Like we don't have that extra knowledge, and I haven't heard
Right.
anything about that outside of like
Like
random things
really
online.
early on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then
Makes sense. I know that my store struggled with the first month of like getting even tournament promos because for some reason they're like you have to sign up for the monthlies that are weeklies. You have to sign up for those by like the 17th of the month prior or something like that.
yeah, I think it's like the cutoff is
And
the 15th, but yeah.
they refuse to let you change it. So, our store's like, yeah, the monthly. When do you guys want that? And we say, oh, yeah, this week. And they go, okay. It's like, oh, the monthly is actually the weekly. Oh, now we can't
Yeah.
run an event on in the app anymore. We have to wait a month, which we're finally going to have fixed, next week. But
Mhm.
we haven't had promos outside of one weekend. So,
Yeah, that's really rough, and that I think that problem is more of like the naming of these events is really poorly named for people who are like have no clue about what it is. Or
qualifiers, showdown, and monthly. Yeah.
yeah, it's yeah, unless you're in the know and like really take your time. It's like some store owners like they might be invested in card games themselves, but they're not necessarily invested in your card game, right? Because maybe you have a player that does the TOing or another employee that's more invested into it does the TOing, but like the usually the store owners are the ones are who are setting up these events, right? And signing up for it through their company, whoever they talk to. And like yeah, confusing titles like that just make it more chances for them to make mistakes by accident, which sucks. But hopefully now people kind of caught on this. I assume um September for everyone should be kind of like on track to be correct, hopefully all around, as far as like people not confusing it with like a monthly being only once a month type of thing when it's actually just your locals essentially, like your weekly local. One other thing too, I guess I'll bring up again. I've said this before in another cast. Like in my app, I've been put into store tournaments for Weiss that I don't even go to, and I've emailed Bushiroad about it and their support and stuff through the app itself, through the email that they have for contacting and any issues with the app. It's been like 3 weeks and they haven't contacted me since. And I wrote in there that like, hey, this specific store on listed in my app saying that I played in. I actually never went there, but for some reason I'm listed as being played, and I've never been to this store before. Like what's going on here, because I don't want situations to happen again where I get locked out for like a month for missing an event or forgetting to like, you know, unsign up for an event or something last minute. Because your account gets locked if you sign up for an event and you don't show up and they report you as missing or like a no show. You can't sign up for anything essentially, not even the day of, even though the app says you can sign up the day of. You can't. You'll try to click into it and it'll say that you are barred from entering because your account is suspended or whatever. uh, the only workaround I saw was that you have to show up at the store and have them manually put you in using your ID and stuff, which is a pain because they can't use your like handle ID. They have to use whatever the app auto generated for you, which is like a sequence of like 8 numbers and a couple characters that you have to like ramble off to the store owner, and then they have to figure out how to enter you into the tournament itself, and that's kind of rough overall. I think that idea of like, hey, don't sign up for events unless you're 100% positive of showing up, I think is like a good idea. I think the response of like accidentally missing one and not unsigning up for it because maybe an emergency happens or something, or you just forget about it. Maybe it shouldn't be immediately 30-day ban. Maybe you give some leeway, be like, hey, you're locked out for 7 days. If this continues within the next 3 months, if you do this again in 3 months, it'll be extended to like 2 weeks and so forth, and keeps compiling from there. I think that would be fine instead of being super harsh immediately. That's kind of insane for players, because especially like I know some areas they don't have as huge as of a player base as Southern California, but like losing your opportunity to pre-sign up for places is really rough in very huge cities where there is already limited player space because it's a huge city and like real estate costs a lot of money, so every square foot matters. So it yeah, it's just really rough on the player just for like making one mistake one time. um but yeah, what about yourself, Dean? How has the app been treating you?
I think I've been more neutral. I haven't had the weird people signing me up for their things. My favorite thing about the app is, do you have it? Because I don't have a phone with me right now, so I can't show people this.
Oh yeah, yeah, I have my
If
phone
you
here.
open it up,
Let's see.
and on the front page, I get the Weiss banner because, of course, I play Weiss. I used to play Weiss. Do you see
uh,
the Weiss banner on the app where it's super scrunched because they didn't make it
yeah,
the
yeah,
right
yeah, yeah. Hold
size?
on.
Yeah, yeah.
I never even know. Oh wait, it's swapped. Hold on. Here, look at
Yeah,
this. Photo.
it's like
Look, Photoshop
super
is my passion.
scrunched. It's my favorite.
Yeah.
But other than that, I didn't know about this. I think it's awkward when a lot of events want you to use the app and they want like a deck list. I think it doesn't matter for weeklies, but we keep having these qualifiers and all these other things, but we're having like 7-man events, right? Like I said, and we've got new players coming in. And I like that the deck editor is built in, but it's like really rough when you get somebody new to the game and you're trying to hand them a deck. And it's like, oh, well, in the app, you got to submit the deck too, right? Because this is the qualifier and they need the ad deck. Like, I don't know if how like much your locals enforces that, but our locals is trying to do everything by the book.
So,
So,
as far as my locals go, like weeklies and stuff like that, unless they get a thing saying it's required a deck list. So the only time I've ever had to submit deck lists through the app itself is if I top eight at invite or I top eight at a store championship. The weeklies they don't submit deck lists at all.
okay.
Has
Cause yeah,
that has it been like that for you, or have you been submitting a deck?
well, for our like invite ones, we have been, but like the invite one was a 10-man event. And so it's like, okay, well, this guy that doesn't play the game just showed up and managed to win like a game, and so now he's in top 8 because there was only 10 people, and he's told to like go download this thing and like,
Build his deck list or whatever, right?
yeah, I feel like it's like really awkward when you're trying to get somebody into the ecosystem. uh
Yeah. To
I
like,
don't think that it's like bad like once you're in it,
mm,
really. I think that the deck editor is okay. uh the finding a store is okay. I haven't really had any problems. Like I found the qualifier that I managed to get my invite at because of that. I didn't even know that they had a scene, right?
mhm.
I would say it's more of something I'm neutral on. I haven't had too many problems because I haven't seen these like big ones, but I did read where like Japan has been having problems with this, but that was like on the Weiss side. I don't know if you read that.
I didn't know what can you like give me the TLDR?
It was it had to do with like Japan having a very large player base like yours, and
Mm-hmm.
more of the fact that instead of first come first serve, they have like a lottery system. So
Oh yeah,
people
yeah.
were, and they weren't telling people if they won the lottery or not until 30 minutes before the event. So people would be like on their way to the shop and then be told, sorry, you don't get to go to locals.
Yeah, I remember that when we played in Japan, we did that a couple times. We'd have to sign up beforehand, and I know this happened at Rio KaiCon specifically. I think you were there for this one too, if I'm not mistaken. But we all signed up, and there was too many players, and since it's not first come first serve, it's the lottery system, like you explained. Like we had to just wait 15 minutes till the event started, and then they drew the lottery then, and the players that were drew like got to play in the event, and that was it. That makes a lot of sense because I think almost all stores, especially in like very metropolitan areas where, like I said again, retail space is very limited. If you've ever played in Japan, their tables are like half the size of our normal card game tables when you play at your locals. Your playmat doesn't fit on it completely. Like half your playmat's like falling off of the table, and when you're playing in like the major cities in Japan. So it makes sense that they just would rather you like if you're going to show up and do it, it's a lottery system instead of like I'm going to show up 4 hours early to sign up and then go. Because we had this issue too where we showed up like 45 minutes early and tried to sign up and they said no, come back 15 minutes before the event starts and then you can sign up. So yeah, that makes sense because like it's really rough. I wonder if they will eventually implement something like through the app to like notify players like way ahead of time, like, hey, you were selected for the lottery system. Please confirm you're going to show up. And like if they do something like that, that'd be kind of cool. Like maybe the day before, um, if there's like 30 players signed up, 15 players can make it. They do the lottery through the app. 15 players get a notification to their app, and they have like until tomorrow morning to confirm that they're going or not. And if they don't confirm, then like maybe it redoes it for like the other players until like it fills out and there's confirmation that all the players are going or something like that. I don't know how they'll handle it, but it'll probably have to be something like that unless every shop is going to change their policy completely. Because like you can sign up for events like months in advance in the app as long as it's listed. Like I
I'm
could,
always scared too. I'm always scared too,
yeah,
especially since you mentioned like what happened to you. So
yeah. Like what I will sign up like a couple weeks in advance, but I had to set reminders on my phone to be like if I'm going, like make sure that I confirm I'm going and don't if I'm not going to go, make sure to delete it now because it's I don't want to get locked out again. But but yeah, that problem is very interesting. It's very unique to Japan, I think, because over here in America land, we are very much first come first serve. If you didn't make it on time, you're out of luck, man.
as it should be.
Yeah, but I'm glad to hear. Like, it seems like overall for both of us, it's generally been a positive experience overall, right? Because we both found stores we would probably have never gone to.
That's true.
Yeah, we got invites at different places. Um, Yeah, I think it's the for what the app is supposed to do, it's definitely doing its job overall. I think there's a lot that could be better, which is I think is we made apparent. But I think definitely for this first iteration of the Bushi Navi app, it's doing what I guess is what everyone was expecting it to do. What I'm very interested in is because I saw like BRO, which if you don't know what that is, it's Bushiroad Rumble Online. It
Oh, I
is
forgot about that.
yeah, it is we don't have one in Shadowverse, and so far I haven't seen anything in YC either. But I saw Vanguard. You can sign up through the app itself to participate in the online regional or online tournament, whatever they run. I'm wondering, um, how is that being implemented for other games eventually, as well as I assume they're kind of using this as like a tester because years ago when they announced this app being in development, its main focus I think was for easing the ability for you to sign up for regional events, like huge regional events, submit your deck list and stuff. So there's less paperwork, less workers have to like be there to manage everything at events itself. Because if you've ever been to a Bushiroad event, a lot of the times a lot of stuff is done by hand and like handing papers back and forth between people and then manually inputting it into the system. But with the app itself, like we can report wins ourselves through the app, which is very nice. And our opponent has to confirm that like either they lost or won or whatever. And I feel like that obviously speeds up the process. It requires less people to like run around and have to collect slips and stuff like that. So I'm very interested to see how this will actually end up playing out in the regionals. I guess here in for what is it? Bushiroad, not Springfest. It's what is it now?
Championship
Yeah, the Bushiroad
circuit,
yeah, BCS,
BCS.
yeah, bench BCS events.
It's
I
a little hard
wonder.
to read the banner. I understand.
Yeah,
Easy to forget.
I'm very curious. Like, are they going to open it up on the app for us to sign up that way or not? Because so far there hasn't been any news about that. But I saw that at least for the Vanguard side for BRO, the Rumble Online events, they have been saying, "Hey, sign up through the app. If you're going to play, sign up through the app. Sign up through the app." So I'm wondering if this BRO coming up is like their test run. If that goes smooth, they're going to maybe hopefully soon implement it into our regionals. I mean, I guess we'll probably find out also early September because the first regionals popping up are in Toronto, I believe. This like is it literally this weekend on the 3rd or
I
2nd?
think so. It's literally this weekend, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Um I guess we'll find out then because I assume they should be throwing up stuff now saying, "Hey, sign up through the app. Hey, sign up through that." But I have a feeling since they haven't said anything yet, they're probably going to wait one season and wait till like early next year to start implementing it through regionals because I think the biggest advantage is for regionals for sure because I think that's going to speed up the process as long as everyone is submitting their stuff on time and so forth, right? So it'll be really interesting to see how that plays out in the long run.
I guess I have a question for you also.
Mm.
Um, at least with the experience, I guess, do you know the actual rules? Because we've been talking about like the Bushi Navi and stuff. Do you are rarity doesn't matter on your Bushi Navi like deck submission, right?
I
Because
have no
I do
idea.
I find that making a deck list for this game, for Shadowverse specifically, is literally impossible with those premiums. You put the premiums in your deck, and you're just like, and for some reason, it's different things on the app, and it'll let you put like 6 Blazing Breaths in your deck for some reason.
Yeah, I
So
saw that
maybe the deck
too.
editor should be fixed because there's no good way to look at your deck on the deck editor for some reason outside of hitting confirm deck.
Yeah.
And
It
then you're like scrolling through and you're like, I accidentally put 6 Blazing Breaths. Oh, I have premium Blazing Breaths and I don't know if I have the right one. And like, are they going to DQ you over that? I don't know. Like, what happens if you have 1 premium and 2 normal?
yeah, I've heard mixed things so far cuz
I remember for Weiss, they got rid of the rarity thing.
I feel like as long as the card name and effect and everything matches, um it should be fine. That's what I'm assuming. So don't take my word for it, people. Like, do your own research. But from what I feel from playing at other Bushiroad events, as long as the name matches and like the card is like basically the same card, even though it's a higher rarity or lower rarity or whatever, or if it comes from a starter deck, I guess it should be fine. You should still be able to pass deck check. The way I've been making my decks in the app when I submit them in, I have been just being like, whatever first version of the card pops up, I will tap it 3 times to add it to my deck and move on, even if I have different rarities of the card. Like I think maybe like if the card art is completely different, like I'll scroll through and look for the right one. But yeah, hopefully it's not something crazy. And they're like, you submitted 2 Blazing Breaths from the starter deck, but you only have 1. We're gonna have to DQ you, even though you have this correct number. That would be insane, actually. Oh man. But yeah, I agree with you definitely. There are some issues with the deck building stuff that hopefully, like I said, if there's another iteration of it, when it comes out, it'll be
So the deck
hopefully
editor
more
is
improved.
almost good. It's almost good.
Yeah, it feels like everything in this app is almost there, almost good enough, like to the point where it's like I can sign off on this and be like 5 stars. This is a great app, great idea. The idea is definitely
Oh,
there. The
I
execution
also
feels a
think
little
it's
bit rough.
unbelievable. I think it's unbelievable that when you're going through the app, because it does something, I think it's like based on like card number or so. I don't actually know how they sort it, but Blazing Breath and Blazing Breath Premium are not next to each
Oh
other on the
yeah,
app. It's like you hit the Blazing Breath and then you keep scrolling down. You're like, I have Blazing Breath on my list. Did I already click it?
yeah,
And so the thing where you can't see your list is even worse than it should be. Uh
yeah.
yeah, there we go. See, I knew there's got to be some negatives.
Yeah, there's definitely it's very clunky in that sense. Hopefully they get feedback from players and stuff like that, especially at regionals. Maybe they'll do some surveys or something, and they can figure out ways to improve it overall. Because definitely the thing where you can have like 6 blazing breaths in the same deck is pretty funny. Because I did that by accident in the beginning too, where I scroll through, oh, blazing breath 3, scroll, oh, blazing breath 3, scroll,
Because they're
oh,
not
blazing
next to
breath,
each other.
yeah,
If
yeah,
they were next to each other, you wouldn't do that.
yeah. And it's like the worst too, because like blazing, I think blazing breath has 3 different ones in there. It's like the starter deck. I think it comes in the starter deck, or maybe I'm thinking of a different card. But there's like a starter deck version. There is the normal version, and then there's the premium foil version. And you're just like, what the heck? Like, what is happening here? But yeah, I think that is basically it. Do you have anything else about the app you want to, you know, should be improved or done better, or
Yeah, not really. I think it's like okay. I know some other systems are worse, and I know some are better. So I think it just is what it is. But if they can fix the deck editor, I think that would go a long way.
yeah, for sure. All right. I think with that, this kind of wraps up our podcast this week. I guess next week we'll kind of talk about the invite system for regional stuff, since next week it'll all be done and we'll be starting into regional system. And for those that are still here listening to this rant, we are now, this week we're working on releasing or recording. I don't know the exact date we'll be releasing it, but we're going to start doing our set review for Booster Pack 2. Was it Rage of Bahamut? Is that the name of the next set? You know what? I have the stupid website open. Let me look. Products.
Rage of Bahamut was
Oh,
that
Reign
was
of
the digital
Bahamut.
one.
Yeah, Reign of Bahamut is booster set 2 for English, which comes out on the September 29th. Everyone's very hyped for it because I think this basically until that booster comes out this September, I think it's going to be like a little lull of like some locals will probably die down a little bit because everyone's just waiting for set 2 when things get the meta gets shaken up again. And I know we're not the only people doing that. Well, I guess not you as much, Dean, but the people in our play group, we've already started like printing proxies for set 2 and started like we're gonna start playtesting very hard this entire month, either online or in person or whatever, to get ready. Because since like I think almost everyone in our play group got a regional invite, right?
I think so. And so it just depends on where your regional falls. Does it fall on set 1 or set 2, right?
Yeah, and well, I guess we'll see, but I know most of us are trying to like get into booster set 2 regionals. I'm open to going to set 1. I don't, but anyway. So we've already started printing proxies for that and starting to play test and so forth. So I'm really excited for the see how the singles system like works out in the end and how Worlds is going to go. Oh, there's one thing we did confirm. I guess we didn't talk about this on the other cast really quick. But there is a 2-week ban to when new sets come out, just like every other Bushiroad card game.
I
Regionals.
There should always be a 2-week ban.
Yeah,
Let's be
I
honest.
I agree as well. But there was a lot of confusion in the beginning, and people weren't sure. They were just kind of guessing at this point. But we actually finally got confirmation that new sets when they're out, there's a 2-week cooling off period essentially to give people time to find boxes, find the cards they need, and so forth. So for people who are looking forward to the Anaheim regional in here in Southern California, it will not be Uma Musume meta. It will be still Reign of Bahamut Booster Set 2 meta.
Wait,
And
your original's that late, isn't it?
yes, it like Uma Musume comes out like literally like I think the same week as the regional or maybe a week before. Because it happens in December, like mid-December or something. So a lot of people
Well,
were
that's
really worried because they're like, "Holy crap! I don't want to play the horse meta. Maybe I'll travel to a different regional." But now that we got confirmation that it's not going to be the horse meta, hopefully that sets some people peace of mind going into the California regional. But yeah, I think that kind of wraps everything up. Once again, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Look out for our set review coming out. We'll be going through every craft. It should be Dean and I. I don't know if we'll have any guests on, but if we do, you'll see when it happens. Other than that, we'll see you guys in the next episode. Later, everyone.
see you then.